Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into Clover Retribution, the anime-inspired Roblox game that's got everyone talking. Now, if you've been grinding your way through this game, you know how important traits are. Traits are like your secret weapon. They're passive abilities that give you sweet stat boosts or let you pull off some flashy new moves. But with so many of them out there, how do you know which ones are worth equipping and which ones, well, you might want to pass on? That's where we come in. We've put together the ultimate Clover Retribution traits tier list, ranking every trait from top tier powerhouses to those that are just kinda meh. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no best trait, right? And yeah, you're totally right. It really comes down to your playstyle and what you need in-game. But we're going to break down which traits have the most potential and which ones will give you the biggest edge. So, grab a snack, sit back, and let's jump into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking traits in Clover Retribution. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Finesse Master, Fighter, Mana Jump, Mana Block, and Average. Alright, let's dive into some of the D tier traits in Clover Retribution. Traits that are, well, not exactly game changers. First up, we've got Finesse Master, which gives you a nice little +5 boost to dexterity. Sounds cool, right? Well, it's uncommon, but unless you're planning to build your whole character around dodging and speedy movements, it's not going to do much for you in the long run. It's like getting a fancy pair of shoes. You feel slick, but it's not going to win you the game. Next, we have Fighter, another uncommon trait, giving you a little +2 in strength and constitution. I mean, it's decent if you're just starting out and need a little boost in your brawling and tanking game, but this trait won't turn you into a powerhouse. It's more like a small energy drink. Not bad, but not gonna carry you through a long fight. Now, here's where things get a little quirky. The Mana Jump trait lets you double jump, because why not? It's fun, sure, but does it help you in most situations? Not really. It's like getting an extra bounce in your step, but still missing the point. Oh, and let's not forget Average, the ultimate meh of traits. No perks, no special abilities, just average. It's like going to a party and bringing water. You're there, but are you really adding to the vibe? Probably not. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Scholar, Arcane Adept, Mana Initiate, Tough Eye, Mana Reserves 1, and Gold Fever. Alright, so let's dive into some of the C tier traits in Clover Retribution. These traits are solid, but they're not exactly game changers. First up, we've got Scholar. It's rare, and it gives you +5 INT, which is nice if you're going for a more intelligence-based build. I mean, it's not gonna blow your mind, but hey, every little bit helps when you're casting those big spells, right? Then we've got the Arcane Adept, also rare, and this one is all about saving that mana. You'll get -10% mana consumption, which might not seem like a lot at first, but trust me, in those long fights where you're constantly spamming spells, that extra mana really adds up. You'll be the last one standing while everyone else is scrambling for potions. Now, if you're looking to beef up your mana pool or regen, there are a couple of good picks here too. Mana Initiate gives you a +2 flat regen along with +5% regen, which is a nice steady flow. And if you're the type that burns through mana like it's nothing, Mana Reserves 1 adds +25 to your mana pool. Not mind-blowing, but definitely handy in a pinch. Oh, and for all the gold hoarders out there, Gold Fever boosts your income by 10%, so if you like stacking up coins while everyone else is struggling, this one's for you. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Noble, Superior Speed, Mystic Savant, Gaia's Blessing, Nature's Channeler, Mana Reserves 2, and Frostwood. Alright, let's dive into some of the B tier traits in Clover Retribution. Trust me, these are still pretty solid picks. First up, we've got Noble, an epic trait that grants you a nice +5 INT and a hefty +25% mana. Perfect for all you magic users out there who want that extra boost to your mana pool. You'll have more juice to sling those spells, and let's be real, more mana means more chaos. And chaos is fun, right? Then there's Superior Speed, another epic trait that gives you +5 speed. It's simple but effective. Whether you're trying to dodge incoming attacks or just zip around the battlefield faster, a little extra speed never hurts. Pair this with something like Mystic Savant, which reduces your mana consumption by 20%, and you've got yourself a magic slinging speed demon. you'll be zooming around, throwing spells, and hardly worrying about your mana running dry. Now, let's talk about Gaia's Blessing and Nature's Channeler. Both are all about those nature vibes. Gaia's Blessing boosts your earth and sand magic damage scaling, so if you love using nature-themed abilities, this one's for you. And Nature's Channeler? It's got flat regen and a stacking regen bonus, so you're healing up while casting. Pair this with Mana Reserves 2, which gives you a whopping plus 75 mana, and you'll be an unstoppable force of nature. Oh, and don't forget Frostwood, keeping you safe from that annoying chilled status in the tundra. Honestly, these traits together make for a seriously versatile and fun build. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Heavenly Restricted, Loved by Mana, Lyrical Surge, Mana Rampage, Tenacity, Boss Slayer, Arcane Zenith, Zenith Surge, Nature's Bond, Warrior's Might, Warrior, Arcane Insight, Arcanist, Swift Reflexes, Assassin, Unyielding Sentinel, Sentinel, and Tough 4. Alright, let's dive into some of the most epic legendary traits in Clover Retribution, starting with one of my personal favorites, Heavenly Restricted. Now, this bad boy cuts your mana by 80%, which sounds brutal at first, but here's the kicker. You get plus 5 STR, plus 5 Dex, plus 10 Con, and a massive 50% increase to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. I mean, if you're looking to smash things into the ground like a walking tank, this trait is an absolute must-have. Yeah, you'll be casting a little less, but who needs spells when you're cleaving through enemies like a boss? Speaking of mana, if you're like me and love a good old spell-slinging frenzy, Loved by Mana is where it's at. This trait hands you a juicy plus 250 mana, and you also get an aura. Now, I'm not saying this will make you feel like a magical powerhouse, but let's be real, it kinda does. With that huge mana pool, you're never running out of gas in the middle of a fight, and the aura gives your whole squad that extra bit of oomph. If you're the team's caster, this is an absolute game changer. Let's talk about Lyrical Surge. This one is for all the team players out there. Every 70 seconds, it applies Melodize to you and your nearby party members. It's like giving everyone a musical buff, and honestly, it just feels so good in those long boss battles. You'll be keeping your squad in sync and ready to take on whatever the game throws at you. Plus, it just sounds awesome to say, yeah, I'm buffing my team with the power of song. Now, if you're all about dealing some serious damage while also staying tanky, then Tenacity is the perfect choice. You get 20% damage reduction when your HP drops below 30%. It's that last-ditch, never-gonna-give-up trait that keeps you in the fight even when things look grim. Combine this with other defensive buffs and you'll be standing strong while everyone else is dropping like flies. It's the trait for the players who refuse to back down, no matter how tough the fight gets. Finally, we've got Boss Slayer. Oh man, if you're farming those elites and bosses, this trait is a dream. 20% bonus damage to bosses and elites with 30% reduced dash cooldown, which means you can get in, land your hits, and dodge out without breaking a sweat. It's basically a no-brainer if you're all about speedrunning boss fights or clearing dungeons. You'll be out there making bosses look like regular enemies with this bad boy equipped. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Power of Friendship, Monstrous Reserves, Mystical Eyes, Adaptive Resistance, High Speed Regeneration, Celestial Conduit, Dragon's Blessing, Divine Restriction, and Devil Host. Alright, let's dive into some of the craziest traits in Clover Retribution, and trust me, these mythical traits are absolutely game-changing. First up, we've got Power of Friendship. Now don't let the name fool you, this isn't some cutesy ability where you hold hands and sing songs. No, when this trait activates, you enter an enraged state and it's like flipping a switch. You get a whopping plus 15% STR and Dex, plus 5% DMG and DF, and on top of all that, a 25% boost to HP recovery. It's like becoming a juggernaut in the middle of a fight, and nothing says friends like smashing your enemies into the ground, right? Then we've got Monstrous Reserves, and if you're a caster or just someone who's constantly running out of mana, this is a lifesaver. You get plus 50% mana, and the best part, plus 10 flat mana regeneration. This basically lets you spam your spells and abilities non-stop without worrying about running dry. You can just keep unleashing havoc on your enemies while they wonder if you've secretly hacked the game. Spoiler, you haven't, you're just that good with this trait. Now, let's talk about Mystical Eyes. This one's a powerhouse for anyone who loves stacking stats. It's an all-around buff, giving you plus 8 to Dex, STR, and INT, plus 10% to your max mana and damage. That's a lot of bang for your buck. It makes you faster, stronger, and smarter all at once. Basically, a walking nuke with infinite energy. If you want to be the player who can do a bit of everything, Mystical Eyes is your best friend. Now, Dragon's Blessing, this one is wild. Every 60 seconds, you get to make a wish in the chat, and it's not just for some lame stuff like free potions. We're talking game-changing wishes. The potential here is insane, but it's also unpredictable, which is part of the fun. You might end up with a buff that turns the tide of battle or something completely random, but that's what makes this trait so exciting. Finally, let's not forget about Divine Restriction. Now, this one's a bit tricky because you lose minus 999% mana, so say goodbye to your magical dreams. But, and this is a big but, you gain plus 5 STR, plus 5 Dex, plus 30% damage for bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing, plus 20% HP and 4 speed. And the best part, you get teleport dashes and full damage immunity. So while you might be kissing your mana pool goodbye, you're turning into a high-speed, weapon-wielding maniac who's immune to gravity. If that's not a power move, I don't know what is. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.